Shalom, family. It's good to see you all here. I hope you're all doing well. Well, we're going to talk about Donald Trump and the things he's posting over on Truth Social. So, this is just a few days after Steve Bannon went over to Great Britain, and he pretty much said on TV there in an interview that Donald Trump ain't going nowhere in 2028. And people better just get ready. Well, Donald Trump pretty much went on Truth Social and said things like, Democrats will never get back in, so they're rigging it all up. And he is indicating and said on more than one occasion, speaking about a third term. Well, some people are bothered by what he's saying, but I'm not, because if you remember, Elon said on numerous occasions that if it wasn't for him, Donald Trump would never be president right now. And Donald Trump did admit, oh, well, Elon, he knows how to mess with those computers and the data and everything. And that's how he won Pennsylvania. So we know, look, Donald Trump is a criminal. You think he gonna stop being one? Of course he's not. Of course he's not. And there's a lot of rumors swirling about that ballroom. They said that ballroom is not what you think. They're saying that he's putting a massive bunker down there under that ballroom. And that's where he's gonna go and refuse to leave when the time comes. You see, back in 2020, he didn't wanna leave, but there were people around him that convinced him to go. This time around, he is gonna just stay put. And they said, think about it. Why would he put a ballroom there and then just leave? He's not gonna leave. That's a clear indicator that he's not gonna leave. And they said, if you think that's just a ballroom, you got it all wrong. That's part of his plan on staying and refusing to leave. Yes, he's making that bunker big from what I understand. So, don't know, but I tell you what, I wouldn't put nothing past Donald Trump. Nothing. Do I think he would cheat? Hell yeah. There's a lot of people that believe he cheated to get there now. And, I don't care what Bannon or Donald Trump say. Donald Trump is not in good health. And I got another live stream coming out at 3:45. Donald Trump had 2 MRIs done in just a few weeks. That is not normal. An MRI is not one of those things you have back to back, but he had 2 in a short period of time. So that tells me something is definitely going on with his health. That is not a normal thing that, first of all, when you get an MRI, they are taking a look at something for a reason. And for them to do it twice at Walter Reed Medical Center, that is definitely a red flag. Donald Trump may not have the health to stay in power in 2028. He is an old man, and there is no amount of cheating that's going to change the fact that he is an elderly man. Okay? And we all know what happens to elderly men. Eventually, they gon' croak. They gon' croak eventually. And Donald Trump, there is no amount of money any of his rich friends and buddies, including Steve Bannon, can do about that. Now, if he was a young man, that's one thing. This man, I barely think he got enough juice to get through this presidency. But you're now he's gonna be, what, 82 when he's done with this presidency, and y'all talking about keeping an 82-year-old man that's barely coherent now in power? I think some of y'all have lost it. It's only most high willing for him to have a third term. But at 82, worrying about a third term that you may not even make it through, not very impressive. That's all I got to say. Mhm. So it really don't matter what Bannon or Donald Trump say. If Donald Trump's health is just not right, he ain't gonna be able to make no third term. And look at him now, ankles swollen, feet look all swollen. The man, his lips, you look at some of his pictures, his mouth is drooping. Those things are not going to get better with age. It's not. And Donald Trump's father had dementia. That's why dementia keeps coming up. His dad had it. And you can't change the onset of that. My mother had dementia. I know what the signs are. And they even showed times Donald Trump couldn't even walk a straight line. His health is definitely not going to be on his side. And he's still caking on makeup on his hand. He hasn't stopped doing that, y'all. He did that on the trip where he went to the UK. You look at the pictures of him standing there with King Charles, he got that makeup caked up on his hand. Okay, which tells you that bruising ain't going away. It's not going away. So, I don't know but I guess, Steve Bannon and Donald Trump, I hope y'all got plans for his health. That's all I got to say. So, y'all, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so you can hear some of the reactions to what he wrote and what was said, even by Steve Bannon and how people are responding to this, right? But yeah, I mean, we know no matter what happens, no matter what the outcome is, Donald Trump is going to try to cheat and he's going to try to stay in office. And I think he will even try to stoop to having a war in order to justify staying in as the sitting president. A lot of people are even complaining about what he's doing to Venezuela. And they're saying it's really not a justifiable reason for him to be there doing what he's doing. Donald Trump needs to jump off a war. Venezuela, those are brown people there, and he doesn't give a crap about them. He doesn't give a crap about how many of them he takes out. So he doesn't care about those folks. Those folks are not even human to him. So he will go in there and do whatever he wants. And he claims they want to go physically in the country and go after these cocaine labs that are everywhere in the country. You don't know the landscape like that. And number two, like I said, I'm not convinced that all those boats they're blowing up are drug trafficking. Where's the evidence? Where's the evidence? Where's the people's names? This is, Hernandez, he's been trafficking drugs for 20 years. You don't hear a name. You don't hear anything. Who's the kingpins over there? You don't hear nothing. That's why I'm not convinced that they're just randomly doing these things to people that have no connection to drugs. Just because somebody puts a boat in the water, that doesn't mean they're trafficking drugs. What are their names? Who was in those boats? Did you find evidence in the water that there was drugs on there? What evidence? It's just like Doge all over again. Elon is finding all this fraud and spending and we haven't heard of no person going to jail for all the fraud they were committing according to Donald Trump and Elon. And I'm afraid it's going to be the same thing with this war with Venezuela. We're not going to get a single name. We're not going to get any evidence of these people being drug traffickers. Nothing. We just have to take Donald Trump's word for everything, and we know what that's worth. But I'm not convinced that anybody he's getting has any ties to drugs. I'm just not convinced. So let's get started. Give me a one if you can see the screen, y'all. I'm sorry if you already did it because sometimes I get into what I'm saying and I don't always concentrate on the chat. So, thank you, everybody. G. Bowman Jr., thank you so much for your support for my channel. Bannon and Pharaoh, Caesar, Trump are convicted criminals. Yes. Didn't Bannon run off with all the border, build that wall money? And he didn't even have to go to jail. He stole millions and millions of dollars for a border wall that was not built, and he ran off with all the money. Isn't it amazing how he can do that? And one of our men can, out of desperation, go steal for food and he'll go to jail for 20, 30 years. And Bannon took millions from his own people that look just like him. He robbed and he didn't even have to pay for that mess. So much for that. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
So Donald Trump just posted his scariest statement yet about his plan to stay in power indefinitely. He's making it abundantly clear that he and the Republicans are not going anywhere. In a new statement on Truth Social, Donald Trump was talking about the 2020 election again, saying it was stolen, it's the biggest scandal ever. But then he says, "We now know everything." That's the most important sentence because it connects to the second half. He continued, "I hope the DOJ pursues this with as much gusto as befitting the biggest scandal in American history. If not, it'll happen again, including the upcoming midterms. No mail-in or early voting, yes to voter ID. Watch how totally dishonest the California prop vote is. Millions of ballots being shipped. Get smart, Republicans, before it's too late." So by saying we know everything, Donald Trump is trying to imply that they have some evidence of cheating in 2020, which we all know is not true. There is no evidence, but he's going to use this fake evidence to indict his political opponents. He's asking the DOJ to pursue it. Here's the important thing. Donald Trump knows that he and the Republicans are going to lose in 2026 and 2028. So I interpret this as him saying, if you claim we lose, if you try to certify an election that we didn't win, we will indict you because you're engaging in the biggest scandal in American history. If you add that to the building of the ballroom, the National Guard task force that he's forming, and the fact that he's sending poll watchers to only blue states in 2025, I think it's pretty clear to anybody paying attention that Donald Trump is not planning on going anywhere, and he's not even trying to hide it. He's saying it right there.
It's not about the ballroom. He's secretly building a state-of-the-art bunker where the old one is. He's planning on staying in power for the rest of his life. That's why he didn't go through the proper channels. He's trying to create an emergency before the midterms so there will be no voting, and he and his regime will stay in power. And where are those people who fought to keep statues up to preserve history? It's not.
Man, we are in 2025, and this is the third time that I heard about them saying that Donald Trump could be running in 2028 again, or maybe that he won't have to run at all. So what's the possibilities? Well, if Trump wanted to still be president, he can run as vice president, and his running mate can quit, after they won, and he can take that spot and be president. They said that's the loophole, but apparently he was briefed about another plan that can get him in without doing it that way, as he denied that he wants to go in that way because he said it's too cute. He don't think that's what people want. So he says he still has the highest poll number, so he's going to try it another way. Now, if he still has a way to get voted in, then that's cool. If the people pick him, that's cool. But the other way is martial law or a huge war. If the United States got into a huge war, like that was a huge threat to our national security to the point we had to declare martial law, kind of like what's going on in Ukraine. Ukraine don't have to hold elections right now. Israel, they don't have to hold no elections. I still don't think they're holding elections. And Right now, if the United States was in some kind of a major war, we had subs and warships parked outside and people were, you know, sabotaging shit across our country, really fucking shit up to the point we couldn't control it. Trump could put us in martial law, put the control over to the military, and he could stay as president. But I think the military would rule the country at that point, off his orders. But Steve Bannon has been the biggest one saying that there's a plan and that, you know, Trump is going to be running for office, is destined for him to run for office and all this stuff. He is saying that this is the will of the American people. I kind of want something new. I don't want Kamala. I don't want Trump. I don't want none of, you know, the top puppets. I kind of want somebody that's really for the people, like that really care about the people and not just all business and war and politics. Like, come on, bro. And here we go. Trump refuses to rule out a third term. Says that he got the perfect MRI at Walter Reed. Wow. Okay. Well, I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? It's been being hinted at all year. Just like the fourth time that it's been talked about. Y'all think it can happen? Y'all think they're going to switch plans? You think JD Vance is going to run? And it's a mess, man. This world's a mess. Anyways, I got more news coming next. I love you guys. Let's go.
I told you guys days ago that Trump ain't leaving the White House in 2028. And now we have this leaked memo from CPAC. They're going to hold a summit in which they're going to explore the ways to get Trump his third term. This is what Putin did. He came in and he never left. He found little bylaws and eventually he just became a dictator. This is what Trump wants. We need to find a way to stop it. I don't know what it is. There's people smarter than me out there. How are we going to stop this? All I know is right now, the only option we have is to vote for anyone who is in opposition of him. So that's my suggestion right now.
Gavin Newsom was right when he said Trump was not planning to leave office. He's already calling out the elections as being rigged by the Democrats. This is what he did last time before January 6th. And he's not ruling out running for a third term. What he did rule out yesterday while on Air Force One traveling from Malaysia to Japan was he ruled out running as vice president with JD Vance running as president. And then if they won, JD Vance would resign and make him president, something along those lines. And he has ruled that out. He said he wouldn't run as vice president, that it's too cute. Guys, he cannot run for president for a third term. It's unconstitutional. It's in the 22nd Amendment. He cannot do it. But Newsom has said you don't print all these Trump 2028 hats if you don't plan to run again. It's stuff like this that needs to be called out. It's so preposterous and we can't normalize this. We can't normalize that he can run for a third term. He can't. It's not allowed. And I know people like his advisor, Steve Bannon, is saying that there are several mechanisms for them to do this and that they are working on it. But as far as we know, there are not. And the one that might have worked would be him running as vice president. And it sounds like Trump has ruled that out. But take it with a grain of salt because this guy changes his mind from 1 second to the next. What Trump is doing is moving to seize power and seize federal control of our elections. He is actively working to do this right now, and they must be stopped. We must not allow it. Let your reps know they need to stop this. Comment what you think about this, like, share, spread the word, follow, subscribe, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
Sloppy Steve Bannon was doing a show here, and he said, quote, Trump will be president in 2028 and get a third term. People ought to get accommodated with that. Then the host asked, what about the Constitution? Bannon says, quote, he's a vehicle of divine providence. So he's going to get a third term.
Guys, it's very offensive to call it a cult.
He's going to get a third term, and he's picked by God. And guys, understand something. The reason why you're hearing a lot about this now is they're trying to soften people to the idea. And notice, they started out saying, oh, we're just trolling, right? Like when he put the Trump 2028 hats on the Oval Office desk when he negotiated with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, he left the hats there and then took pictures and stuff like that. And it started, JD Vance was like joking around, like as if it was a troll, as if it was just a joke. And it starts out as a troll. It starts out as a joke, just like all the stuff in 2015 with the Pepes. And eventually they go, no, actually we are Nazis. We actually do believe that. Eventually, as Sloppy Steve says here, it's like, no, we're actually he's going to stay in 2028. And so this is where we are. And it's just, I don't know. It's very strange because we see all this. We talk about it. We're sounding the alarm, but I don't know if I feel that same sense of urgency everywhere in the country.
was downplaying it, calling it a joke when they heard his friends say that he was going to run for a third term. But how about it then came out his own mouth? Come on, stability with Auntie, let's talk about it. So Donald Trump talks about running for a third term. He said his poll numbers are the best they've been in a long time. So, he wouldn't mind running for a third term, even though we all know the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution states that a president cannot run for 3 consecutive terms, and that would be his third term by him running in 2028, child. But he said, oh, there's other ways around it. I can run for vice president. I could be vice president and stay in there. Baby, who would put you as they vice president? I don't know too many, unless you hitting around to say that your vice president gonna be president next or something, and he'll be the only one to put you back up in there. Because anybody else that comes up in there, you wouldn't have been nowhere near that White House, baby. After what you done did while you done been in there this short period of time, you have been in there. Ridiculous, y'all. But he did says his numbers are at their best right now, so he wouldn't mind running for a third term. After all the damage that is gonna be done during his second term, baby, the person that comes behind him, baby, gonna have enough of a time trying to right all these wrongs that he has done so far, baby. This is crazy. Just a reminder, today is October 27th, y'all. So the current government shutdown has been for 27 days. If he keeps it up and allows these people to keep doing what they're doing, he gonna exceed the longest government shutdown that was accomplished during his last presidency. Might I add that any other president can get him to get back in office and get some stuff settled, but you can't. But you, Donald Trump. Oh, let me be quiet, because they say I talk too much, and that's why I ain't getting no views, and I got paid 50 cents on TikTok the other day. That's all I made in the whole day because I run my mouth too much. Oops. But oh well, I'm going to still talk anyway. Okay. Thank y'all for sipping a little more tea with AC. Bye, y'all.
The government shutdown in America is a glimpse of what America will be like permanently if the Trump Republican regime stays in power. And here's how the U.S. is operating right now, which is also how the poorest, most poorly run nations under dictatorship also operate. Critical safety employees, such as the American TSA officers lining up at food banks, air traffic controllers having to take second menial jobs just to make ends meet, Coast Guard families relying on charity. The most dangerous aspects of government, the U.S. nuclear stockpile in this case, managed by less than a minimum number of people to keep it safe. Right now, in America, this is happening because Trump has shut down the government. And given what Trump has publicly said and what he has done in just the last several months, this may well be a permanent situation in the U.S. And Trump and the Republicans have a lot of models to copy the new America after. Nigeria, Venezuela, Zimbabwe. Government workers take second jobs or rely on aid because the government can't pay them. This is normal in those types of countries. It's what Trump is doing to America. It's teaching Americans to normalize dysfunction, to accept unpaid work, failed systems, and leadership that blames everyone else. And it will be the new normal for the U.S. if Trump stays in power. So how long do you think it will take Americans to accept this as their new way of life? And join us at culturalperspective.com for more about how governments work or don't.
Election in 2028. Between this picture and that press conference where Trump made a joke about declaring war so that we wouldn't have to hold elections in 2028, I'm saying it right now. It's not happening. Donald Trump looked us dead in the eyes and said, 3.5 years from now, if we happen to be in a war with somebody, no more elections, ha ha ha. And some of y'all are still walking around with that fuck-ass flag like it even means anything anymore. He is literally the official website. He has that literally includes the slogan, rewrite the rules. He is building an entire brand around taking a shit on the Constitution. And before anyone wants to say, oh, he's joking, it's just a joke, wrong. You're wrong. It's a psychological play done intentionally to normalize the idea of him having a third term. There is no question that Trump is absolutely going to find a way out of conceding power in 2028. The only question we should be asking now is if we're going to let him. Can we please talk about the fact that Bernie Sanders received a vote for the president of Lebanon? Because this is genuinely the funniest thing I've ever seen. Please watch. This is actually so hilarious.
Forget about how juvenile it is, what the president did. You know, dropping I mean, like, like AI. I mean, it's just juvenile, dumping excrement on the heads of American people in an AI video and thinking it's funny. And it reminded me of kind of in a different way, the way that that Republican text thread in New York, making jokes about watermelon and making jokes about the Holocaust and making jokes about Hitler and making jokes about women and making jokes about gay people and just a vile. But by the way, if people haven't read it, I mean, be careful reading it, but it just goes on and on and on. And this idea that these are like kids, I mean, these are 20 and 30-year-olds. These are young professionals that are like, running the party. But it reminded me of that in this sense, is that the complete loss of decorum and civility, completely. I think about it in this respect, is that when I saw the assassination of Charlie Kirk, it was shocking. It was so shocking to actually watch. And I was one of those people that I'm sure like millions that it immediately kind of showed up on a text thread of a group of people, not as like, not as some kind of curiosity. It was just like, oh my God, this is, I mean, it was so, the violence was so, the violence of it was awful. And, but immediately I knew what they were going to do. Mm-hmm. They began to make a martyr out of him and use it as a cudgel to sow more division immediately. And he takes every single opportunity to do that. And I think that he does it for one reason, is because he has no intention of leaving in 3 years. And he wants there to be violence. He wants us to tear ourselves apart, so that in the aftermath, that it's them standing. Yeah. And I don't know what the us is, but that's what they'll just talk about the Insurrection Act and testing the waters and sending in active duty military troops. I mean, whatever happened to Posse Comitatus?
Yeah.
Donald Trump seemingly just said that his administration is working to make sure that no Democrat can ever win an election ever again. He openly said that he's got Kash Patel and Tulsi Gabbard, quote, working on it. Just take a look at this, then we'll break down what that really means.
We can never let what happened in the 2020 election happen again. We just can't let that happen. And so the way we go, I know Kash is working on it, everybody's working on it, and certainly Tulsi's working on it. We can't let that happen again to our country.
So first and foremost, that is not normal political talk at all. The president is openly referencing a team that he's put together of loyalists who are working behind the scenes to, quote, fix elections. That's a statement that should terrify anybody in this country who values democracy. When Trump says we can never let that happen again, he's not talking about voter suppression or a rigged election. He's talking about losing. He's talking about making sure that next time the outcome isn't decided by voters, it's decided by him and his loyalists. It's been proven time and time again that the 2020 election was one of the most secure ones in all of U.S. history. Dozens of courts, including Trump-appointed judges, rejected.
I would love to do it. I have my best numbers ever. It's very terrible. I have my best numbers. If you read it, am I not ruling it out? You'll have to tell me.
Look, I need people to hear me on this. You don't build a ballroom if you're planning on leaving. Anybody that really thinks that Donald Trump is going to willingly give up power in 2028 is not paying attention. There are three main facts right now that'll scare the crap out of you about Donald Trump's plans to stay in power, because it scares the crap out of me. Number one, Steve Bannon, senior advisor to Donald Trump from outside the White House, says they have a plan being worked on behind the scenes for him to run for a third term. It's very sophisticated. They're planning it out, they're funding it, and they're going to have it ready to go. This is coming from someone who knows Trump. Number two, the Trump administration is currently forming a National Guard response force that will be trained in crowd control and civil unrest, ready to deploy to all 50 states, coincidentally, by 2026. Now we're learning that the Trump admin is sending poll watchers to 2 blue states, no red states, for their elections in 2025 in New Jersey and California. And representatives in these states have called it highly inappropriate. Donald Trump and his buddies know they're going to lose in 2026. So it's obvious now that they're making plans to basically claim that it was fake, it was fraud, and Donald Trump actually won. And they're going to use the FBI, the DOJ, and all these different agencies to do it. People got to wake up and realize that this is the reality.
So there you have it. Yes, that was Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, crackhead Hunter Biden. Yeah, y'all know Hunter is a lawyer by trade. He went to law school and passed law school, and he's been an attorney for years. Crackhead, but he's still a lawyer. Now, I don't know if he's practicing. I don't think he is, but yeah, I was surprised he was on social media, but he is. He's on social media. Mhm. So, yeah, and I think all of these plans to stay in power, the reason why it's coming up now is because they're doing the planning while the government is shut down. That's why Steve Bannon is talking about it. That's why Donald Trump is posting it on his Truth Social social media that he owns. And it's coming up because this is what they're doing while the government is shut down, putting their plans to cheat and steal elections ahead. With all the stuff that's going on, Donald Trump knows, and I do agree, he knows the Republicans are not going to win. It's too much damage done. And as far as Snap, y'all don't be surprised if Snap does not come back. And the reason why I'm saying this is because of some of the things Donald Trump said coming into office. Now, he said he wanted to get rid of welfare and Section 8 and all of that. And he's pretty much accomplished that. And turning off the funding for SNAP, people got to eat and survive. And, I'm hearing, more and more videos of people saying the crime is going to go through the roof. Crime does not bother these folks. They make tons and tons and tons of money off of crime. So, and they love jailing people in this country. So now you got new slave labor of all these people stealing. They go behind bars. Remember, once you're behind bars, they can put you back in slavery. So they're going to have a fresh group of slaves in prison. They don't care about the crime going up. In fact, they want it to go up. There is so much going on, so much chatter going on online in regards to, the crime going up. And we're going to touch on that at 5:45. I'm seeing so many things crop up online about what people intend on doing. G. Bowman Jr., thank you again for the super chat. He's already got the military deployed. Yeah, Yeah, and he's gonna have even more people deployed especially as he get towards the end of his term, because he knows if he steals this 2028 election, it's gonna send shockwaves through the country, and people are gonna already be fully aware that he's cheating because he's putting it out there for everybody to hear. So that's if he's able to get that far. Like I said, there are many that said he's had strokes, he's had many strokes, but we shall see. We'll be talking about him getting another MRI at 3:45 today, so I hope to see you there. And again, G. Bowman Jr., thank you so much for your 2 super chats and support for my channel. So, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and conclude. Thank you so much for being here, and be on the lookout for my 3:45 live stream. Shalom, family.